Right, guys, welcome back to another episode of the League Express podcast. My name's Jake Kearnan, and joining me as always is the editor of League Express, Martyn Sadler. And Martyn, for our viewers and listeners, we've got another special guest today.
Yeah, it's Gary Hetherington, who's got an incredible record in Rugby League. Gary's obviously, probably fair to say, Gary, you're edging towards the veteran stage now in terms of you're closely behind me in terms of age, I think. But you've had the most incredible record in Rugby League. You started a club in Sheffield Eagles. You played a fantastic role in effectively rescuing a club at Leeds Rhinos when you joined with Paul Caddick in 1996. But now, after the end of this season, when your time as chief exec comes up at Leeds, you're going to head down to London. You've actually become the owner of London Broncos, and you've set yourself an incredible target of reviving rugby league in London and turning the Broncos from also-rans into major contenders. So I suppose we ought to begin by wishing you the very best of luck in doing that, and we obviously all hope that you succeed brilliantly as you've done previously with your previous clubs in Rugby League. But welcome on board. Good to see you.
Yeah, thank you, Martyn.
I guess first of all, Gary, how's the London project going, mate? And I understand you've probably done a little bit of work with them this far, but I guess where are you at with the club, and what is some of that early work next year going to look like?
Yeah, it is a fascinating challenge, and it's one that's been around for quite a long time. Of course, London started life back in the early 1980s as Fulham, and they were very successful to start with. And then it's fair to say that since then they've effectively been nomads. They've played at a host of different venues in and around London, and had their good moments and the challenging moments as well. And for the past 30 years, David Hughes has effectively been the owner of London, and he's kept it going as David. But now there's an opportunity, which is what the way I'm looking at the challenge. It is a challenging one, but it's an opportunity to actually not only make London a success, but make Rugby League a success, and generate much more awareness of the game and much more interest in the game throughout London and the south of England region, which is a pretty big region. And if we can make a success of that, then that will have a material benefit for the game in actual fact. Because I think, we all know that the game is, one of its challenges is that we're in a pretty small geographical territory, and in terms of producing players and producing more fans and more corporate support and this, that and the other, we've got some real challenges for the game. But of course, Rugby League has always had its challenges. It has challenges ever since it started in 1895. That's a facet of the game in many ways, and that's what makes it so interesting and attractive.
Absolutely. Gary, it's very difficult to criticise David Hughes, isn't it? Because for many years he's poured so much money into London Broncos, and without him, I think it's fair to say the club wouldn't have survived. So, to be critical of David would seem to be unfair. But the problem that David had was that he was never able to make the club into anything that was much more than a one-man band in a way. He was never able to put down a deep infrastructure that incorporated all the community clubs in the southeast and that expanded the club's footprint beyond what was really quite a small area. So you're quite different from that. Your record actually at Leeds is that I've always said to people who have asked me about you that your great strength is picking the right people to start with, and then delegating and trusting people to do a good job. And by picking the right people, that obviously has worked very well for you. And it's a different approach perhaps to the one that David had. But it strikes me it's the only way ultimately to succeed in London.
Well, it's the best way as well. What you learn as you get a bit older and a bit wiser is that there are people out there that can do a job a lot better than you can. And so, over the years, I'm just as engaged as I've ever been, but in a different way. I've become a pretty good delegator. Because you get people who are really good at doing jobs and really passionate and determined and committed to doing them, far better than me in many fields. But it's identifying that ability and actually giving them the confidence and the support to go ahead and be proactive and be creative and actually do the very best they can. And that's in many ways what we've created at Leeds. It's a terrific organisation full of top quality people who are all adding value to the operation. And that's what we need to achieve in London. And in many ways, I've known David Hughes for 30 years, and David is a terrific fella. And as you say, he's rightfully and personally supported London financially. But his real interest was indeed the rugby and the team. And I think it's fair to say that the things that London don't have that it needs is in the future is a much broader commercial operation, marketing operation. It needs a business that can generate income and tap into the advantages that a city like London can offer. So I think, first and foremost, you're quite right, Martyn, in terms of we've got to look at what it has at present. And what London Broncos has at present is certainly they've got a good culture. They've got a team on the field that competes pretty well. There's well coached, very committed, very enthusiastic group of players. It's got a staff who, in many ways, they've got the same qualities, all determined and very committed. And it's got volunteers as well. It's got a venue in London, in Wimbledon FC, which is a pretty good venue. It trains out of Rosling Park. It's got 26 community clubs in the region that all need to be connected with. And it's got the London Foundation, which taps into the community. So it's actually got some basics in place. And what we need to do is to bring all that together, make everybody feel welcomed and part of what really is going to be a rugby league movement throughout London and the south of England. It's a big region, but it's got so much untapped potential. And that's the challenge, is to bring it all together, to create a rugby league movement, to create some identity, some greater awareness, and a vision and a plan that actually can create a very successful team, a team ultimately that's going to be full of Londoners, full of kids from the south of England region that are all playing professional rugby league, and can make everybody in the region proud that it's got a successful rugby league team that's trying its best on the field and also delivering real value to the communities within London and the south off the field as well. So there's so many opportunities, and in answer to your question, I'm looking and learning about London, identifying what's there to do, and there's certainly a lot to do. At the end of the season, I will step down from my role at Leeds Rhinos, and I'll be able to focus fully on the London project. And it's an exciting one, quite a daunting one as well, but an exciting one, and one I'm really looking forward to.
When you put it like that, it does sound exciting. I mean, the potential. There's no denying, is there, that the potential. There's more potential in London than anywhere else. We can talk about the big clubs in rugby league, including Leeds Rhinos, but potentially London Broncos is bigger than all of them. But it is only potential at the moment. And the one thing that you didn't mention there, which is going to be absolutely vital, it seems to me, in terms of what you aim to do, is the need for investment to back up all those very, very worthy aims that you have, because you're going to need to expand the number of people who work for the club to do all the things you want to do. And to do that, you need investment. And you emphasise that right at the very start when you had the launch at the Australian High Commission a few weeks ago, which was a tremendous event, by the way, and you had some very important people turning up, including the Australian High Commissioner and one or two other key people. But how's that search for investors going, Gary? Because that really is going to be absolutely crucial to what you hope to achieve.
Yeah, and you're quite right, Martyn. And in many ways, that is the starting point. At present, I've sort of taken on the challenge, but in the belief and the knowledge that I will be able to pull in a group of investors, a group of shareholders who first and foremost all support the vision. And the vision and the plan is not to actually maintain the survival of London Broncos. It's to make a success of it. It's for London Broncos to be successful both on and off the field. So that's part of the vision. And we need people who are committed and are able to add value and support that vision. So initially, I wanted to share the ownership of London with other committed people, and that's a search that's been going on quite a while, and that's coming to fruition now. So I think in the next several weeks, in actual fact, weeks and certainly within the next few months, we'll be able to announce what the new ownership group is for London Broncos.
So you're having some success, hopefully, in searching for potential investors.
Yes, and I've spoke to a lot of people, a lot of individuals, and a lot of organisations that's got a vested interest or an interest in having a vested interest in this project. But what we're looking for, Martyn, is people who can invest first and foremost, and every penny of that investment will in fact be used as working capital to improve things that needs improving. But we also need organisations and individuals who can come and add value in the longer term as well. So we're not quite looking for sleeping partners, for example. We're looking for people and individuals who can come, invest in the property, take a shareholding, and then add some ongoing value. That may be as a sponsor, it may be by knowing other potential sponsors, it might be having a particular expertise in a particular sector, it might be marketing, commercial, whatever it may be. So it's some people that can add value. So I want to pull together a group of owners, a group of shareholders who can all add value. And in many ways, we're starting with a blank piece of paper. We're starting with just myself. And so that's the challenge. And I'm diligently working through and spending time with people who are expressing an interest. And I'm pretty confident that in the next few weeks we'll be able to announce what that group's going to be. And then, of course, you move on from the ownership group. What is the vision and the plan? Well, the vision is ultimately to create a very successful Super League team out of London Broncos, and in the fullness of time, for that team to be full of young players from the south, from London and the south, who've all sort of been nurtured, who've played rugby league from a young age, who become professional players, maybe even populate the national team. And that for both men and women as well. We've got a women's team. We want to develop women's rugby league. We want to develop disability rugby league. We want to give opportunities to talented young people who've got a passion to do well in sport. And for rugby league, it's a bit of a mystery and a secret in many London communities. So we want to popularise the sport in what is obviously a big and a vast region. But with the support of the RFL, with the support of other stakeholders, major stakeholders of the game, I think we can do that, because I think rugby league has got so many advantages, and it can resonate with so many London communities. You know, it's the only sport that was born out of its community, that's still part of its community.
Yes. And we don't emphasise that enough, do we, really?
Absolutely. It's still a secret, and it's a secret to even people in the north. But I know with what Leeds Rhinos and what the Leeds Rhinos Foundation does on a day-to-day basis, it really adds value to a community. And that's what rugby league can do in London and the south. And we need to engage with local authorities, we need to engage with politicians and MPs, senior people, senior companies that want to actually support their communities. And so there's so many opportunities, and at the end of the day, that's going to create more players, more fans, more corporate sponsors, and just broaden the whole spectrum of what we're looking to create.
Jake, if you were a major investor, you'd got lots of funds that you could put into a club. Would Gary have persuaded you to make that investment just on what is said so far?
Mate, I think so. Just on your excitement alone is very refreshing to hear, Gary. My little tip of advice would be go set up shop in a pub somewhere in Clapham, and I'm sure you'll get interest from a lot of Aussies that live in that area.
Absolutely.
I think I just did a little Google there while we're talking. According to some data here, there's about 80,000 Australians who are living in London around 2021. I think it sort of referenced there. So You get 10%, 5% of those guys.
You're not far off with your data. There's actually 100,000 Australians. There's 100,000 Australians living in London and the region. There's about 60,000 Kiwis. There's Fijians, there's Tongans, there's people from Papua New Guinea. The rugby-loving nations of the world, where rugby league is popular, uh, uh, many of its residents actually live in London. And so, one of the target markets is to encourage them all to become, many of them are rugby league fans anyway. They might be fans of West Tigers or Brisbane Broncos or whoever. But if they're living in London, they need to become a fan of London Broncos. So one of the target areas is to actually, the people that's from rugby-loving nations that actually live in London. There's nearly 250,000 of them, so that's a pretty sizable market to tap into.
Have you found a way of making contact with them, Gary?
Yeah. Well, one of our partnerships is with the Australian Embassy and the Australian Chamber of Commerce. So they actually liaise with all the Australian companies who've got an interest and a business interest and a trading interest in the United Kingdom. And many of these companies are in actual fact based in London. So yes, we're already making connections and developing relationships and partnerships. At our media launch at the Australian House a few weeks ago, we had Catherine West. Catherine West is the MP and the British government minister for the Pacific nations. So she's got a vested interest in New Zealand and Papua New Guinea and Tonga and Fiji and all the sort of nations that they've got people that's living over here that are naturally interested in rugby. So she's keen to sort of help and help with making the connection. So I think that's one thing that we're keen to do that perhaps London have not done particularly well over the years, is connect with all the sort of with the population of London and the south, and that's connecting at all levels as well, connecting with corporate companies, connecting with clients, connecting with businesses, connecting with schools, universities, connecting with communities, hard to reach communities which is full of people who can't afford normally to go and watch professional sport. Well, they will be able to afford to come and watch and support London Broncos. So we need to connect with all sectors of society. And the role of the London Foundation will be quite a pivotal one as well. The London Foundation will need support from its club, it will need support from other entities as well. So that's a major project. So there's so much to do, but
Sounds it.
yeah, so much potential and so much goodwill as well. So
Yeah.
when I go to London matches and speak with the fans and listen to the fans, I'm there to listen and learn primarily. But there's so many of their fans travel huge distances to watch games, and they're so passionate and committed. And I think we've got to make rugby league and London Broncos less of a secret in London and the south of England.
No doubt about that. You're obviously knocking on a lot of doors, aren't you, and garnering support from various people and various organisations. Do you find when you do that most of those doors are open to you, or they're not slammed in your face? Hopefully.
Yeah, and it's actually quite refreshing that people have got a knowledge of rugby league. I think going back to the Eddie Waring days, going back to when rugby league used to on BBC more often than it does now. More often when the game had a media presence in London and the south. It doesn't have one now, but it's had one in the past. So people sort of relate to sort of former players like Sean Edwards and Martyn.
Former players, but not current players. That's the problem, isn't it?
That's another challenge. We've got to popularise and create a much greater awareness and profile of our current players and our staff members and people connected with the club. So you're right, Martyn. There's so much to do, but it's about tackling each of those challenges in an orderly fashion and getting different people and different expertise to actually assist with that process. Tapping into the world of the modern social media, digital marketing, digital media, bringing companies on board who can help with that process. And that's all part of the plan and the movement.
When you first got involved with London, Gary, you gave the impression that quite a lot of the investment that you were seeking was going to come from Australia. I think you were in Australia. I remember phoning you while you were there, and I think you'd had a meeting, if I remember rightly, with Peter Vlandis and Andrew Abdo. and I think you'd spoken to the Broncos and one or two other clubs as well. Do you anticipate some of the financial support that you're hoping to get actually coming from Australia?
Well, there is a fascination in Australia. Obviously there's a huge interest in rugby league, but the thing that the Australians do resonate with is London. Is the fact is London? It's the capital city. It's the name that's on anybody's lips when they ask questions about rugby league. Why is there not more rugby league in London? That's the question that needs answering. So there is a genuine interest from Australians per se about London and the opportunity that a successful London can bring to the game. So yes, I found quite a bit of interest in Australia, both amongst the clubs, and we'll be looking at having partnerships with different NRL clubs with the Australian hierarchy. As we know, there's only two major competitions in the world. There's the NRL and there is Super League, and those two competitions could and should be aligned. And we should have a strategic plan where we're looking at developing the international game, developing the domestic game, developing the TV viewership of the game, and we should be much more aligned with the NRL, which hopefully we can achieve that goal in the not too distant future. And I think it is quite feasible that we could attract some financial support for the London operation from Australia and the Southern Hemisphere.
Yeah, the danger with all that, Gary, though, is that the NRL is moving forward at such a rapid pace, both financially and in terms of its expansion, its expansion plans, and its the quality of what it's providing on TV and streaming services and so on. There's a danger it's going to leave us behind, isn't there? And the danger with that is that we're going to lose a lot of our leading players to the NRL, because ultimately, if they can earn far more by going to Australia than by playing over here, then it's logical that many of them would take the money and go.
Yep. And that's why we need a strategic partnership with the NRL that's compatible with all of our challenges. And I think the NRL realise that it's no point then raping and pillaging our game, taking all its major assets, as indeed it did in the 1970s. And we took a lot of recovering. Our international game suffered as a result of that. So they do appreciate that they really need to add value rather than add competition to what we're all about. And they themselves can have a significant role in helping to achieve our goals. And we do need, our sport does need further investment. Currently, the Super League clubs and indeed the Championship clubs are very dependent on the benevolence of their own club owners. But club owners need to sort of take on the challenge of maintaining standards and at their own clubs. But we do need external investment to fuel growth. There's a lot of potential growth opportunities, certainly commercial growth for Rugby League, but we do need investment to actually to populate that some of those objectives, and that's where the NRL could play a key role.
Absolutely. A couple of other thoughts, really. Obviously, you've mentioned already that Wimbledon's football stadium in West London is an ideal venue for the club. Presumably, you've already, I hope, established good relationships with the football club that obviously owns the stadium. And the second point is, you've talked quite a lot about whether you ought to rebrand the club to give it a new name and a new identity and discard the London Broncos. I think you and I had a discussion a few weeks ago, and I sort of urged you not to do that. But obviously other people might have a completely different view. I just wondered where you're up to in that regard, Gary.
We've got a partnership with a company called Freshwater. Freshwater have got a base in Sydney, Australia, and also in London. And they were the company that delivered the Dolphins application to join the NRL. And they're very highly thought of and respected in Australia. They've done the same for the Perth Bears as well. So they're pretty well versed in rugby league, certainly in Australia, and they've got a partnership with London Broncos, and they're looking at researching this very subject. They're researching all sorts of things like the ticketing pricing and commercial packages and prices in London. And so when they finish that piece of work, that'll be quite informative and will help us grow our business. But one of their challenges is to come up with the name and brand. First and foremost, is it advantageous to change the name and brand? It's currently London Broncos. It could be London something else. Would that be advantageous? That decision needs to be made. And then if it is in the positive, it is, yes, it would be advantageous to change it. Well, what going to change it to? So that's another piece of work as well.
There was a story a few weeks ago, wasn't there, that it might be called the London Hounds, which I think was a bit of fake news, wasn't it? Presumably.
Well, it wasn't fake news for me, but there's quite a number of names that will come to the forefront. And that one leaked into the press. I don't know how it got there, but what I can say is Freshwater will do a very thorough piece of work, and they will come up with their recommendations, and those will be ultimately the decision makers will be the club owners, but also I think to broaden that decision making and influence throughout the supporters and everybody who's got an interest in London Broncos and rugby league in the south. So it's a big piece of work and it's a big decision, as you say, Martyn. It's not going to be taken lightly, and it will be sort of managed over the sort of course of time. But there's no urgency to have to do that. That's just one of pieces of work that's currently been undertaken.
Jake, have you any thoughts about a good name for a London club?
Mate, I'm a big fan of having...
You're a Brisbane Broncos fan, so presumably you'd like to keep the Broncos.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when I was a kid and I found out that there was a Broncos based in London. I was blown away. But... yeah, I don't know. I'm a big fan of having like a similar mascot that matches the name. So like, Brisbane Broncos, London, maybe something beginning with an L. Would you go Lions? I'm not sure with the British and Irish Lions, but there's a reason why I'm not paid to come up with these names, Martyn. But just...
We've already got leopards.
Yeah, that's right. We already got leopards. But I was just off the back of that, Gary. I'm sure you've probably seen a lot of the noise online. Like a lot of people like to, I guess, cast doubt on rugby league working in London. They always point to mistakes perhaps the club's made in the past and reference that as why it'll never work in London. I guess how is it hard to block out that noise? And I guess how do you ensure that the approaches you guys take in the future are different to what's hasn't worked in the past?
One thing about rugby league, there's always been that noise. That's always been there. Whatever you want to talk about, whether it's expansion, whether it's new clubs, whether it's referees, whether it's standard of play, that noise has always been there and always will be there. In actual fact, that's what makes the game such a good talking point. But look, I think it's fair to do a critical analysis on London. I think it's fair to say that it's not taken advantage. The professional club, has not taken advantage hitherto of the opportunities that London as a city and the south of England region can offer. And those advantages come in so many different ways. I think that London and the south could be the most fertile producer of players for the professional game, for both men and women. It's not at present. It has produced players over time, almost by accident, but it could and should become the most fertile producer of players. It's where all the major companies and the major brands are located. In rugby league, we've got Betfred, who are a terrific supporter of our game, but we don't have any other major brands associated with our game. That's an opportunity. London can deliver the opportunity to bring in more companies, not only for themselves, but for the game generally. Creating many more fans. London and the south is a huge region. Creating fans, both television viewers, watching NRL games on television, watching Super League games, watching internationals on television, but also attending games, attending the Challenge Cup final at Wembley every year, attending other major matches. And one thing that's very encouraging is more than half the ticket sales for the Ashes Test, England versus Australia in October at Wembley, have been sold in London. So there is a latent interest there. And I don't know if they've all been sold to Australians or not. I don't know the actual details, but I do know that more than 50% of the ticket sales so far, and there's nearly 40,000 tickets being sold for that game, have been sold in London itself. So there's clearly interest, and what we've got to do is to manifest all that interest into tangible support. Tangible support for the club through the terraces, games, buying merchandise, having a respected club that people want to associate with, whether that be as a player, as a volunteer, as a fan, as a sponsor, whatever level that may be. And I think there's just so many opportunities to do that in and around London. It's a big project, and it's not going to be done overnight, but it's there to be done, and I'm keen to be part of it.
I was going to ask you, Gary, how important is that test match at Wembley for as far as your aims are concerned? Because if we could get a sellout crowd for a big game in London, which should surely be the aim, I would have thought, then it would enable you to say, well, look at this demand for rugby league in London. We're the club that you can now follow, transfer your allegiance to, come and fill the Cherry Red Records Stadium. And I find it slightly disappointing when I hear people at the RFL and RL commercials saying we're hoping to get 60,000 at Wembley. I mean, the place holds 90-odd thousand, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And frankly, that's therefore the figure that we should be aiming for, surely. We shouldn't be content with only 2/3 filling it. We should be aiming to make sure there's not a single empty seat in the place.
I agree, and given that there are 100,000 Australians living in London, then it's not.
They could fill it themselves.
It's unreasonable to expect 30,000 of them to all go there to support the Kangaroos, and that's 30,000, and that's Australians. There's Kiwis, and there's other Antipodeans as well. So I think that for me is the opportunity. So I think there's opportunity to actually generate many more fans for the game, generate much more media coverage, much more interesting players. There's so many good stories to be told. There's some of the community clubs like the one at Brixton do such terrific work for rugby league, and it's got so passionate about the game of rugby league.
We're so inclusive, aren't we? That's the key thing.
Yeah, no, we've got to become, we've got to significantly increase and develop our media profile, our the awareness of the game, what's going on in communities, what's going on with the game, and why rugby league is such a good game to get us up to become associated with. All those stories need to be told, and we need to sort of start and sort of win the hearts and minds of people who up to press have probably not been engaged with rugby league at all.
Absolutely.
And that across all sectors of the society as well.
We're coming towards the end because I'm a bit conscious that Jake has another engagement pretty soon. But can I just ask you one final question, Gary, that's a bit slightly off the topic in a way, but is very important for the game. And that is, next week there's going to be a meeting of club owners. And the key item on the agenda, as I understand it, is this question of whether next year we should have 12 or 14 clubs in Super League. And that could have a direct effect on you, of course, because potentially you might, if it went to 14, you never know, London might be a club that came back into Super League. Who can know what the outcome of that would be? But I just wonder whether you have a view on that you'd like to share with us.
Yeah, I've always had a strong view. I think the ideal number of clubs initially to start with in Super League is 14. We do need 26 home fixtures from a business point of view to be sustainable. And loop fixtures are not popular, and for good reason are not popular as well. And they, in many ways, they do contaminate the league somewhat. I think a 14-team league with 26, 27 games, including Magic, is the ideal number, and that would give opportunities to actually strengthen the clubs that's already there and in Super League without having to relegate any, and would also enable another two clubs to come in and add some value. Ultimately, every club that's in Super League needs to be showing that it is adding value. And going further, that the number of clubs could be expanded. We need to take a leaf out of what's happening in Australia and New Zealand. The NRL, an increasing number of clubs to ultimately become a national competition. That should be our aim and aspiration as well. There's no reason why we can't have 20 clubs in a Super League.
I agree. Yes. Yeah.
With the UK spread for the game, that's really what that should be the extent of our ambitions.
So you go to 14 next year.
Yeah, look, I think there's a bit of work to be done in terms of financing and obviously we've got a grading system in place now, so I think there's still a bit of work to be done, but I think that needs to be the direction of travel. Yeah.
Last week we had Nigel Wood as our guest on this podcast. I don't know whether you saw it, but are you happy that he's now the chairman of the RFL and you think he'll give it a push in the right direction?
I think that what Nigel brings to the game is knowledge, is intelligence, is a knowledge of all aspects of the game as well. He's been on the international board. He's been chief executive of the RFL. He's worked at the highest level. He's worked at Clubland. Particularly when he was chief executive at Halifax. He understands the community game. He understands the game below Super League. He understands all aspects of the game. He understands its challenges as well. So I think we've got somebody who actually is understanding of the game's challenges and is going to be very proactive in coming up with some viable and workable solutions to take our game forward.
Well, okay, Gary, thanks for that, mate. And Jake, I think that probably sums up where we are. Do you want to say anything more, or it's time for you to head off? I think you're playing tag rugby league tonight, aren't you?
Yes, unfortunately, mate. I mean, not unfortunately, it's good, but it's a good way of me keeping fit. I don't like going for these long runs where I've got to deal with my own thoughts. I'd rather be out there playing, running with a ball in my hands. But just one final thing from me, Gary. We saw, I guess, London Broncos sort of became everyone's second favourite team when they were in Super League, given the hand that they were dealt. No future security past their season in Super League. Do you ever think to yourself, what if we did have promotion relegation, they were to stay in Super League? Do you think that would help you going into this role, or do you think you'd be playing a little bit of catch up if they were to remain in Super League?
Well, look, London needs to be in Super League ultimately, but first and foremost, it needs to have a much more viable business, a business that's actually touching people at all levels of society, that's got a commercial entity, a marketing entity, a PR and a media profile that's much greater than it is now. It needs to develop in its own players. It doesn't even have an academy team at present. It needs an academy. It needs player development centres. It needs to do so much, and a viable London entity that's actually ticking all these boxes will have significant value for the game going forward. So that's the challenge, and that's the challenge that we look to hoping to deliver.
Yeah, perfect, mate. Right, Martyn, I'm happy to wrap it up here if you are, mate.
Okay, that's great, and many thanks to Gary for coming and joining us. We could have obviously talked for a lot longer. There's no doubt about it. We could have talked all day, I think, about rugby league with Gary, but 40 odd minutes is probably not a bad limit. So thanks, Gary, and hopefully we'll welcome you again a few months or maybe a year down the track when some of these aims that you've outlined today have all borne fruit and you're a hugely successful club. Let's all hope so.
Thank you.
Yeah. No, absolutely, Gary. All the best, mate. We'll be cheering you on. And, look forward to talking to you down the track, mate.
Thank you.